آه نبدأ على بركة الله ها. Okay. به. Uh, last time we have dealt with unit number 1 and we finish it. Be. Today we are going to start unit number 2, which is entitled Education Matters. What is the meaning of to matter? فسروا العنوان بتاعنا. To matter, it means to be of great importance. To matter معناتها of great importance. If you say education matters, it means education is very important. Now we start with section number 1 or lesson number 1, which is entitled Education for All. Now, we can't speak about education without explaining this expression. We start first with the verb. Anna, the verb is to educate. The noun is education. This is the noun. Now, what about the adjective? Okay, we can find 2 adjectives from the verb to educate. If you are describing a person, you say that's an educated person. We can also find another adjective which is educated. Here is an adjective. And if you are describing the system, you say it's a system of education, or you say the educational system. Another adjective is educational. So the verb is to educate. Noun, education. If you describe a person, you say it's an educated person. And if you describe the system, you say it's an educational system. Now, what about the person who educates? The person is an educator. We say an educator or a teacher or a tutor, an instructor. These are synonyms. You say an educator, a teacher, a tutor, and an instructor. So here you have education, educated person, educational system, and the person is an educator. Good. Now let's move to question number 1. Now, do you think that education is only confined to rich children in developed countries? What about the meaning of the word confined? It means limited. Restricted, it means, okay? You say limited. Education is confined or it's restricted, or we say it's limited. Now, what about the answer to this question? Is education only for rich children in rich countries? Of course, it's not. Education is a human right. Now we go back to the title of our section. It's education for all. When you speak about the right of education, it's for all the children all over the world. Yes? It's a right. Education is a right. It's a human right. Okay, right here, it's the opposite of duty. Now, since we speak about education as a right, so why do we find children who are out of schools? This is question number 2. or mainly here when we speak about education as a human right. So normally all the people should have this right. All the children should have access to education. All the children should be at schools. But unfortunately, we can find some children who do not attend school, children who do not go to schools. What do you call people who stop schooling or people who quit schools? We say they are dropouts. Children who quit schools. We say who quit schools, or children who leave schools, or children who drop out of schools. Drop out of schools. Quit, leave, drop out. It means they stop their schooling. We pay attention here. Drop out is a verb and it's also a noun. We say to drop out of schools, it's a verb. And children who drop out of schools, they are dropouts. We say drop out. Plural, it's dropouts. Okay. So here we are speaking about the right of education, which is a human right. It's a right for all the children all over the world, whether they are rich or poor. But unfortunately, I have said that we find children who are out of schools. Sometimes they are excluded from schools, or sometimes they choose to stop their schooling because of many reasons. Because of many reasons. Now, in question number 2, we're going to discuss what are the reasons. What are the reasons or what are the causes of dropping out of schools? Ranin, can you tell me or can you give me one of the reasons making children out of schools? Okay, mainly we have many reasons. Being out of school is due to what?
To learn.
Yes, okay. They drop out of schools, it means they stop their schooling. They stop their schooling, it means they leave school. يبطلوا القراية معناتها. What are the reasons? Okay, we have many reasons. Being out of schools is due to, for example, if we speak in Tunisia, you have in many places in Tunisia, children do not attend schools. علاش زعما? Because number one, it's mainly because of poverty. This is the first reason. Poverty here is a noun. The adjective is poor. This is the first reason. Parents are too poor to send their children to schools. Okay, this is the first reason. So children here, because their parents are too poor, they cannot attend schools, so they choose to opt out of schools or they choose to drop out of school in order to look for a job. So children drop out of school to look for jobs. It's to help their families. So we see here, reason number one, it's poverty because parents are too poor. So they choose their children choose to leave their schools. They choose to stop schooling and they start seeking a job, to look for a job in order to help their families. Okay. Now we can find another reason, or the third reason for dropping out of schools. It's mainly something related to health problems. For example, handicapped children cannot go to school. So they choose to drop out of school because of their handicap. Handicapped children can't attend schools. They can't attend schools, or they can't go to schools because they cannot, because they can't. They are handicapped. Okay? Now, among the other reasons making children out of schools, it's the phenomenon of bullying. Nowadays, we are speaking about this phenomenon, which is widespread in the world, and it started in Tunisian schools, which is bullying. Okay, what we call in Arabic التنمر. Okay, bullying, which will create a psychological problem. Okay, or you say it's either a psychological problem or emotional problem. So it's another type of handicap, by the way. Bullying, because children are shy, they suffer from bullying, so they choose to stop schooling. Bullying is the phenomenon, and children are bullied. They are bullied by others. By others who are bullies. Okay? Can we speak about other reasons making children out of schools? Okay, here we continue with that. It's psychological problem. Psychological. Right. So we'll go back to reason number 1, it's poverty. Reason number 2, it's looking for jobs. Many children choose to opt out of schools because of their handicaps. They are handicapped children, so they can't attend school, or they can't commute to school. They can't go to and from school. Yeah. Another problem, it's bullying, which is a psychological problem. Now, among the other reasons that make children out of schools is, if you take, for example, the example of Saudi Arabia, or in some parts of Egypt, yes? Okay, many mentalities refuse to teach children, especially girls, yeah? It's some mentalities. Some mentalities refuse to teach their children, especially here, we speak about girls, especially girls. Okay. Now, what about the other reasons of dropping out of schools? It exists even in Tunisia. It's the absence of means of transport. Some people live far away from schools, so they don't have any means of transport to move from their place, their houses, or their homes to school. So it's absence of means of transport. Which means children live far away from schools. So they choose to opt out of schools, okay? Among the other reasons making children out of schools is exclusion. What about the meaning of exclusion? This is a noun, and the verb is to exclude. Some children are excluded from schools because of problems at school, like school violence, like lack of discipline, yes, or poor school results. So they are obliged to leave school because of some problems. So here we have children are excluded from schools. So these are mainly the reasons making children out of schools. Now let's focus on sentence number 1. Yes, Ranit, you want to say something?
تنجم زادة تكون cultural norms.
Sorry?
cultural norms.
والله لا فهمتك. Can you repeat please?
cultural norms.
Cultural norms. So you speak here about some mentalities. This is صحيح? Yes. Okay. It's reason number 5. You speak about old mentalities. In some regions in the world, they refuse to teach their children. Yes. Okay. Following cultural norms. Why not? Right? It's right, Rani. Cultural norms. Refusing to teach children. Okay. So these are mainly the reasons making children out of schools. Yes, Ranin, عندك question?
No.
Now, let's go back to reason number 1. Here you have parents. The first reason, it's poverty. Parents are too poor to send their children to schools. Now, let's focus on this sentence, please. Parents are too poor to send their children to schools. Okay, I will write grammar here. Parents are too poor to send their children to schools. Now look at this grammatical rule, or look at this form of the sentence. You have parents are too poor to send their children to schools. If we want to rephrase it, if we want to express it in a different way, we will say that parents are very poor, so they can't send their children to schools. Parents are very poor, they can't send their children to schools. Now, look at the difference between sentence 1 and sentence 2. Let's focus on sentence 2. Parents are very poor, so they can't send their children to schools. Now, to move from sentence 2 to sentence 1, what did we do? We change it, or we replace it very with to. They can't send their children to school. We replace it with the to. Two of the infinitive, of course. So what is the rule here? Too poor. So it's to plus an adjective. Plus to, which is an infinitive. Base verb. To plus base verb. أهلا وسهلا. Okay. This is the rule which is expressing. Okay, it can we can here say that it's expressing cause and effect, or it's expressing excess. I am too poor, that's why I can't. Or they are too poor, so that's why they can't send their children to schools. Okay. Okay, we can speak about cause and effect here. Okay, it has also the meaning of excess, too much. Okay, let's take another example like this one. For example, I say, I'm too tired. I'm too tired. Well, I'm very tired, sorry. I'm very tired I can't speak. يا رنين كيفاش ردوها هذه تويك بالقاعدة 2 plus adjective plus 2. You have I'm very tired. I can't speak.
I'm
Good رنين I'm
too tired.
too tired.
I to
ليش
speak.
to speak directly without I am too tired to speak. تشبه كيف احنا نعبروا بالعربي شو نقولوا انا ياسر تعبة على الكلام. شو معناتها انا ياسر تعبة؟ معناتها انا ياسر تعبة ما نجمش نتكلم. اوكي والله تعبة على الكلام. اوكي yeah. Now let's take another example. For example, you say it's too well, it's very late. It's very late. We can't go out. Well, we can't go to the cinema. We have very and can't. We change them with 2 plus 2. شتولي رنيمة؟
It is too late
صحيحك. It's too late
to go to cinema.
Good, yes. It's too late to go to the cinema. Okay. Good. Now we go back to our lesson. Okay, we have stopped at question number 2. What are the causes that make children out of schools? And we have spoken about 6 or 7 causes, 7 reasons because of which children stop their schooling. Okay?
Okay.
Now, speaking about these children who drop out of schools, we have some word organizations that are taking care of these children. Example of these word organizations, for when you speak about word organizations, you have many organizations. For example, WFP, you have, for example, UNESCO, you have, for example, WHO. We have many word organizations, okay? Now, my question is, which word organization, question number 3, which word organizations can bring solutions to children, for children out of schools? We speak mainly about 2 famous organizations, which are UNESCO plus UNICEF. These word organizations are taking care of children. They protect, for example, the UNICEF protects children's rights. It guarantees the right of children to education. Okay. Plus also the UNESCO, it takes care of education and culture. Both these organizations encourage education and culture all over the world. Okay. Now we need to focus on these words, UNESCO or UNICEF or WHO or WFP, or in Tunisia we have, for example, STEG, SONED. In football we speak about FIFA. What do you call this expression? Is an acronym. Let's take, for example, WFP. WFP here is an acronym. Now, what is an acronym? It's an abbreviation. It's formed from the initial letters of other words. For example, W here, it stands for word. F stands for food. P, it stands for program. Word, food, program. WFP. What do you call this expression? It's an acronym, which is an abbreviation. You take the first letter of each word, and you form a word with it. Okay? And here we are speaking about two organizations, which are the UNESCO and the UNICEF, which are taking care of education and taking care of children and their education. Because here mainly we are concerned with education. Unit number 2, it's about education. Okay? Now let's move to part number 2, stage number 2 of our lesson.